Hi team, Happy New Year. This is the second video in Meyer's iron gate / crossguard for the longsword. This is a pretty interesting video because we run into the same dilemma we saw with one of the hanging guard plays, where there's kind of a weird winding in with the false edge from the hanging position, but there's some cool clues in here about winding through with the pommel. So let's read through this and then I'll talk about how I'm interpreting it. So, parry his high cut as before, and when the swords clash on one another, then quickly wind the short edge in his right ear, and then quickly wind through beneath again with your pommel up towards his left side, and strike long against his left at his head with a back step. So not a long video, but there's a lot in there to unpack. So if you remember from the hanging guard videos, we had a hanging guard where we did the parry, and if the person stayed, we did some winding in with the back edge, and if they left, we followed them with a cut. With this cross guard, Meyer's giving us these two options just in a different order. So last video from this cross guard, they left and we did these double undercuts. This time they're gonna stay and we run into that same problem. So we've come here, they're on top of our sword, and Meyer says to wind in toward his right ear with our back edge. So does that mean this kind of shoving, or does this mean that we're going to wind? I think the clue here is that Meyer tells us after we do this, we're gonna wind through again with the pommel. And Meyer's winding through is actually taking your pommel from one side to the other. He has an example where you've come from here, you wind through with a right step, and then you wrench and cut. So we're gonna use his description of winding through to kind of give us the key to how to interpret this play. So we've come from this cross guard, this iron gate, we've come up and we've caught the opponent's cut. So we're gonna wind our back edge towards the right ear, so we're gonna uncross our hands. That's the first step. Boom. Now what he says to do is wind through again with the pommel towards their left, so across the line, and then we're gonna hit them left with the overcut. So to me, the fact that we are winding through again really takes this kind of shoving with the back edge out of the equation, because if we did that, we wouldn't have to wind through again. We'd already be there. So for me, this winding through is the key to how we're expected to use the first part of the play. So from this cross guard, gonna pick up and catch. We're gonna wind our back edge to the right ear. So it's probably kind of more of a vertical cut. Then we're gonna wind through again, and then step to the head. In the description of winding through that Meyer gives us earlier in his 1570 book, what he actually tells us to do is wind through to the left with the right step, and then we actually cut over with the back step, and he says this lets us wrench over and drive their blade down while we hit them in the head. There's no reason we can't do that here as well. So we can, from here, do this back edge, wind through, and then we could actually take our pommel in kind of a circular motion over the top and drive their hand or blade down as we hit them over the head. He doesn't say to do that, but there's no reason why we couldn't. So to give you this, the shorthand, so if I'm in this cross guard, I'm gonna pick up and catch, back edge to the right ear, wind through, cut over. So the motions are not, it's not a very long play, but it's that same dilemma of what does he mean by wind in with the false edge, and there are some interpretations from either side that show just kind of a press in, but again, particularly from this cross arm position, I think the wind through again kind of makes that not really viable. So when I'm practicing this guy on the Pel, this is again where if I'm going to end up in this cross arm position, I might throw a low attack and end up in the recovery position, or I might just start out from here. Either foot forward is fine. I'm gonna catch. I'm gonna back edge, mostly down, because he does say to target the right ear of my opponent. And when I do this, I do like to make sure, see how my head is drifting off the line? That's important. I'm gonna wind through, cut to the belt. Again, this kind of low cross guard, pick up and catch. Maybe I can step out to get my head off the line, wind through, overcut. Cross arm, catch, back edge, wind through, overcut. So again, at the camera, low, pick up and catch, back edge, wind through. When I wind through, I do like to make sure that my hands are high and not low, just to protect my head. And that will keep my head safe, or it will let me, if I can take my pommel over and catch onto my opponent's arms or weapon, gives me a good driving over, because I can wrench really well. If I'm here, if I'm low, not only am I not protecting my head, but if I am trying to wrench over, I won't have the leverage. So I like to be here and then cut over. Pick up and catch, back edge, wind through, cut over. Catch, back edge, wind through, cut over. And one more time on the paddle, just for good measure, because this is kind of an awkward one to practice, I think, initially. So catch, back edge to the right ear, wind through, cut over. And he does say to do so with the back step. That doesn't necessarily mean straight back. That can just mean the back step slightly offline, which is what I would recommend regardless. So I think this is a fun play. I think the kind of hint with the winding through makes it a little bit easier to interpret. Give that a shot, and we will kind of move on from here. This really is the last true play from this iron gate / crossguard. Meyer gives us just a couple pieces of advice. He says, if they cut underneath, just turn the long edge into it. And then he ends this with saying, by the way, the counter to this is the key. So he's saying from here, if we want to counter this play, it's the key position. And it's not, I think, so much that the key counters this iron gate so much as what the key can do. And what the key does is thrust out of it, right? Particularly this kind of midline thrust. And if you think about it, if I'm in this low crossguard and somebody thrusts right over my hands, this kind of midline attack, that's tough. Because if I just pull up, there's a good chance I'm just going to direct it right into my throat or face. So that is an awkward recovery, somebody thrusting over the hands. And so when you are playing with this guard in sparring, or you're playing against this guard in sparring, if you end up here, you need to watch out for that thrust and be aware that that's kind of an awkward transition. And if you have somebody that likes to play with these low point down guards, the barrier guard, thrust right over the top of their hands, because cutting is a little bit easier for this guard to have some good defense. But if you thrust right over their hands, that's going to be really, really awkward. So I don't think it's so much that the key position counters the iron gate. I think it's more that what the key is good at, that kind of midline thrust, is what counters the iron gate position. So play with those things. If you have the ability to spar, you know, most of our stuff is still closed down out in California. We're all purple right now. But give it a shot and let me know what you think.